that I own with another business partner just down the street off Broadway. And something that's come up in our discussions has been putting solar on that. And I said, there's going to be a time for us to do that, and we're looking forward to that. But we wanted to put together a program that advanced the city's environmental and sustainability goals. Engage residents in sessions like these so we can educate and learn more about this technology. It's not really all that new, but to a lot of people, they might not have the vast amount of knowledge about it, and we hope to break that barrier. And then the bottom line was we needed to make this work for the city council and the citizens, where it makes financial sense. We're seeing savings as well as the green benefits from this. Oh, did it go back? Sorry. There we go.
Yeah, one more.
Oh.
Yeah. One more.
One more.
Yeah.
No, I'm going wrong. Sorry. There we go. So this is kind of just a brief overview of the 5 sites we looked at. So 3, right, as you can look out this window here, the fire, city hall, and the library. Those are what I'd call smaller to mid-size systems. We also are looking, or are going to do the municipal liquor and grill and public works. From an energy standpoint, that's going to create about 33% of the city's usage at those 5 sites. And they are really bring a lot of economic benefit, depending on what the city wants to move forward with, whether it's a power purchase agreement or directly financing this. It can be we can see from $110,000 of savings, kind of over a 25-year span to over $530,000 in savings. So pretty significant economic benefits besides being able to offset about 33% the usage at these sites. So a little example of solar projects. There are more than this, but I kind of wanted to hit on some high level ones.
Sorry, I'm running this one.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, you're doing that one now.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So this is a site out in Kirkhoven, Minnesota. This is just like one of our many ag customers, basically looking to offset his energy usage and do it in a financial sustainable way. This would be a fixed ground mount array. Essentially, we take these C piles, we drive them into the ground about 8 to 10 feet. On top of that, there's the racking, and then across there's solar panels with about I want to say 120 panels on this site, and it sits just to the south of Doug's grain lakes there. And I can answer more in-depth questions people have about this. This is one type of system we've been doing for about 7 years. These are dual axis tracking systems. They're very popular in ag space, just because we get about 35 to 40% more. They create about 35 to 40% more energy than the same size system that's a fixed ground mount that I just showed you. These are all earth renewable trackers. They essentially wake up in the morning, track the sun east to west as the day goes on, and go to sleep at night. They're the best worker you could possibly have because they do their job very efficiently. Many of our farm, or in this case, this is Brandel Motors up in Little Falls. This was actually an installation we just finished about a month or 2 ago. Many of our business owners or farmers prefer this just because they get an additional benefit of the added energy that they create. And under the Minnesota law, you can install up to a 40 kilowatt system in a co-op like this and be paid back at the average retail rate. So we get the environmental benefits, but we also get to see the financial benefits from a system like this. This is Minnetonka moccasins. This was actually taken right about during the middle of construction. As you can see, it's a ballasted roof array. What that means is we set baskets. Basically, the panels sit on top of that racking. The baskets are weighed down by more or less a cinder block, so it doesn't blow off the roof. Most of the arrays for the city will be just like this, where it's fully ballasted. The panels sit about 5 to 10% degree pitch, and yeah, we make sure from a structural standpoint, the roof is able to withstand this load. So we get a stamp from a structural engineer, and this will be like I said, most of the city's array will be in this stock. And then a pitched roof mount array. So for those interested more in like a residential type array, when you have shingles such as this municipal liquor store in Morris, Minnesota, we'll put on racking that's basically penetrates into the purlins, and there's a sealant that goes in that penetration, so no leak concerns. And then a few of the city buildings will be like this. The maintenance building down the street here, that's actually has a metal roof, and many of our customers who have a metal roof prefer a what would be a non penetrating type style of racking. We use a S5 clamp that goes onto the seam of the roof, and we clamp a bunch of those on, and the panels sit on top of that racking. So it's kind of a happy medium between a ballasted and something that penetrates. So benefits of solar, both financial and environmental, and that there are even more, but kind of just what our customers have come back with. Is a big one is 30% investment tax credit. So in case anyone didn't realize, in August there was a bill passed. Formerly the 26% federal tax credit was gonna basically run out and reduce. We have a new bill that came in, and it's 30% over the next 10 years. So we have a nice long runway of seeing a lot of, I think, solar being installed and encouraged from a federal level. Being able to depreciate the asset. A lot of business owners look at this as an additional benefit, because not only can they receive a 30% tax credit, but they can also depreciate the asset over a 5-year period. Specifically for Excel, and I think Deidre is going to touch on, these are at least solar rewards a little bit, but Excel has a program, Solar Rewards. It's a 10-year program. The city is, we're using that program with the city here. They're enrolled in that. It pays out depending on the if it's a residential or a commercial setting, 3 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour produced over a 10-year period. So that can really help push, a payback, a year or 2 years, back, essentially allowing the customer to realize a quicker financial benefit. The PV rider is similar to the Excel rewards, but that one is more based on demand. So if anyone's looked at their bill, they probably haven't seen a demand charge on the residential bill, but our businesses that we have processes that reach a certain threshold will be in a demand situation where they get charged a kilowatt rather than just a kilowatt hour. So this PV rider is all the energy produced between 1 and 7 p.m. Excel will say, well, you're helping us take demand, off the grid or capacity. They don't need as much capacity on their grid. So they will credit at about 6.9 cents per kilowatt hour during that 1 to 7 time frame. So that is for our larger systems, a big driver in customers moving forward with solar. And then, you know, a big one is utility rate hikes. Over the last 20 years, typically it's about 3%. However, we've seen rate hikes in not just Excel, but across the board, 5, 10, 15% just in the last few years. So this is really driving people, business owners, residential to say, you know, this can lock me into a rate, and if I offset my bill, I'm going to avoid those rate hikes over time. From an environmental standpoint, you know, just creating carbon-free energy. A lot of people, a lot of our farmers are, you know, they've come from we want to create our own sustainability, you know, locally, and a BTM behind the meter. It's being produced, meaning the energy is being produced locally and being used right on site there. So rather than creating it somewhere hundreds of miles out, having transmission lines send it in and using that energy, this is a very efficient way. It's essentially a microgrid. So there's environmental benefits there. Land use comes up a lot. So, you know, in a city like this, obviously being able to use rooftops that are kind of just, you know, not being used for anything. You start monetizing a rooftop like that, it adds value. And then in terms of land, as you saw in most of our egg settings, it was unproductive land. It's land that's not being farmed. You know, typically most of those systems are about 1/3 to 1/2 an acre, you know, roughly in size. So they'll put it on the edge of the field, maybe in a wet area that doesn't produce any crops, and we're able to turn unproductive land into very productive land for the owner. And then recycling program. This is something actually that we get a lot of questions on. So right now, the recycling program in Minnesota is very early. It's being defined a little bit more over the next about 6 months. There is a committee that's been formed and going to talk about how do we develop a recycling program, because these panels are about 90 to 95% recyclable, but there is a process to doing that. And then the racking and the other components are, you know, scrap metal. That's very valuable as well, in case you, which we have looked at steel prices lately, and we do quite often. So those have risen pretty great. So being able to recycle a system after 25, 30, 35 years in you know, just from an environmental cost standpoint is going to be important. And that's something that's being further developed. So how do I go solar? And this is just a very simple, you know, way. There is a little bit more to this, but from a high level, basically, if you got 12 months of usage for your home, for your business, and added up the kilowatt hours used over those 12 months, we use that data and we can build out an array that will offset that amount. Okay. And then we'll break down the financials of, all right, this is how long it'll take to pay back based on the rates you are currently paying, based on that tax credit, if you're a business, based on depreciation that you can take. So we help guide our customers in saying, this is going to be the best, you know, maybe economic benefit, but perhaps they say, I just want to take out my whole bill, and, you know, what does that look like? And that's a lot of our customers will do it that way as well. Next part would just be contact us. And a lot of people might say, well, I'm not really sure how to read my bill or add up those 12 months of usage. That's something one of our people on our sales team can help with. They will, you know, get the usage data. The Excel has a form, very easy to fill out, requesting that usage data, and we can get it delivered straight to us. And then, you know, we look at the site, we get the site address, see what we can do from we use a program called Helioscope to kind of scope out what you know, size of the system we can fit on that site. And then we'll do a complete, complementary analysis to say, hey, here's the viability of solar at your site. I think I was out with Nick at a site. One of the citizens was looking at for their home, and at the end of the day, there was just a lot of trees on the rooftop, and it made more sense to subscribe into maybe a solar garden for that individual than anything else. And that's something we would recommend, is saying, you don't have you have too much shading, or you don't have enough roof space, or whatever it may be, that might drive them toward doing an offsite approach, subscribing into a garden. Or it might say, yeah, you have a great site for it. Here's the financials to it. And then the homeowner or the business will make the decision on what's best for them. So yeah, again, I wanted to thank the E&E committee. If anyone has really specific questions, I'm happy at the end, after the other presenters, to talk more about it and go from there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, Mark.
Push button. Okay.
Thanks. I'm Deirdre. I'm Deirdre Coleman. I work for the Center for Energy and Environment. And I'm here representing Excel Energy's Partners in Energy program, which I've been kind of helping to facilitate along WYZEDA's energy action plan that was created through that program. So I am by no means the expert on Excel programs, but I am going to talk about some of them that are available. But feel free, if you participated in some of these programs, you might know more than I when we're going through these. But first, before we get into the renewable energy programs, I know that's why we're all here. But I just want to stress that energy efficiency is always kind of your first step. The program that I recommend most to people is the Home Energy Squad program. And that's a program both through Excel Energy and Centerpoint Energy. So there's measures that come along with that program that will help reduce your electricity and your gas needs in your home. So I want to go into a little bit of detail on that. I have participated in this program. If you have, feel free to speak up on what you found beneficial. But basically, you have a couple of home auditors that are going to come into your home and really do a deep dive into your home's unique energy picture, and can show you where you're losing energy, actually quite visually, and then give you a good look at what your highest return on investment projects might be in your home. And there's a long list of the other things that come along with this visit. But basically, you're going to sign up for this visit. The home auditors will come into your home and they'll start by setting up a blower door test. Usually this is if your home is built before the 2000s, that this is really useful. But they will do that so they can create pressure in your home and see where that energy is leaving your home through I'm gonna forget the name of them, thermal imaging camera. So you'll actually be able to see where your home is losing energy, and they're going to take photos of this and write this into your report. They will replace all of your light bulbs with LEDs where you don't have LEDs, and they'll install weather stripping, especially around your doorways, where that weather stripping wears out and where a lot of that energy loss might be happening. And they can do on-site installation of smart thermostats. they can give you the rebate from CenterPoint right on site and install that for you and even adjust it to your energy needs. And they'll look at things like water heaters, they'll do a heating safety test. And then what I found most valuable with my home energy squad visit was the report that I got out of it. I've actually used this report a number of times over the last 3 years when I'm on to that next project. So when I started with insulation, I was able to send that right to the insulation folks. I had some old knob and tube electricity, and so I was able to send that report to the electricians, which had pictures in it of that knob and tube that they needed to replace. So that's a pretty valuable part of that visit. And then the other thing they could do is recommend contractors and even give you quotes for things like insulation. And then following that visit, you'll have access to energy advisors that are a part of that program that you can continue the conversation with and ask questions of. So for all of you attendees or other residents that might need a home energy squad visit, we're giving them away free this evening. The city has a buy down program normally, which is makes it 50% of what the cost would be. But so it's free tonight, and that code that you use when you sign up online to get that free visit is on the flyers on the back table if you want to grab one. So that's my pitch for energy efficiency. So now we can talk about renewable energy, and I like to start by just giving a quick picture of renewable energy. Just nationwide, this is our electricity generation from 1950 to 2019. So you can see from 2010 to 2019, that big growth is really in the natural gas and renewables sector. And then if you pull apart that green wedge of the last graph, you can see that since the 2010s, most of that growth has been in solar and wind energy. And then just a more local look at renewable energy. So in 2020, renewable energy became the #1 source of electricity generation in Minnesota. And 84% of all of the new generating capacity built in the last decade came from renewable energy. So that was about 29% of Minnesota's power in 2020. And then the wind energy is the majority of that power at about 3/4 of that generation. And then even more locally to your utility, Excel Energy, they have their own net zero goals for their electricity generation. I don't know why this is, sorry, back one. So there was a animation here that's not showing up, but by 2030, Excel is reducing their carbon emissions by 80%, which they're on track to do, and the technology is there. Their 2050 goal to be completely net zero will take some of that technology innovation to get there, but that's their current goals. And then in talking about, we can move on to talking about the programs now. But before we do dive into those, just a couple of considerations or things that you'll hear about renewable programs. The first being a REC. So if you've heard people talk about renewable energy, you might have heard that term REC, which is a renewable energy credit. The only thing that means is that one REC is proof or like a form of currency that 1 MWh of renewable energy was generated, and that can be purchased and traded outside of that electricity service. So that's all that means, but when we talk about programs, some of them you will keep the REC as a customer, and the other ones you'll give back to the utility. So the only, not the only, the benefit that comes along with owning the rec, or that it's retired for you as a customer, is that you can say, I'm powered with renewable energy. If you transfer that back to the utility, then you can say things like, I support the development of renewable energy, but you can't necessarily make those other claims. And these are some of the programs that go along with each of those claims. I will skip over this unless you find it interesting, but just another way to look at those recs and the claims that go along with them. The other thing to consider is, as Excel is reading their grid, they now have something called the certified renewable percentage. And this comes in a report to the customers each year. And basically it's giving you as a customer a way to say that you're using a certain percentage of renewable energy confidently. And for a business or home, you can basically, if you have a goal of being powered with renewable energy, you're not starting from zero, you're starting from what the utility is starting from. So you can see these are their projections. And this is a little old slide, so those might be updated by now, but basically it's a third-party insured way of knowing the utility is using this much renewable energy. Okay, now for the programs. So there's 5 programs that we'll talk about in a little bit of detail, but feel free to ask questions at the end about each of them. I like to sort them into these subscription programs and the on-site programs. So that's the way that I'll talk about them, and I'll start with the subscription programs. So the reason I like subscription programs, a number of reasons actually. They're just a good way, so you don't have to put anything on site. You can be a renter or a leaser as a business and participate in this program and not have to put something on site where you don't own that property. It's month to month, so you can subscribe. You can subscribe to as much of your energy as you want. So for instance, if you use 600 kilowatt hours a month, you can subscribe to 100 of that, or 200 of that, or all of that. And this one in particular, Wind Source, is something that I participate in. And if you're thinking about on-site solar, it's a good kind of gap filler between now and when you eventually have that project done. And you get to own the rec in this situation. It's really easy to sign up. All the wind is local wind generated. All you have to do is go to your online account and it'll give you, there's a big button that says, you know, which programs you can sign up for, and WindSource will be one of them. And you just click it and say how many kilowatt hours you want to subscribe to. And there's also a place in your account where you can look up how much you typically use, so you know how much to sign up for. The one caveat, WindSource, is that it's not going away, but WindSource will be rolling into a program called Renewable Connect, which some Wayzata residents already participate in, but it's been fully subscribed for a long time. It's now starting to open up, and WindSource customers are being rolled over into Renewable Connect, which is just a mix of the wind and solar energy. And I think that'll start happening within the next year. I'm in Minneapolis and I just was rolled over last week. So it's kind of starting there and it'll come here slowly. There is a wait list. If you want to start with Renewable Connect, you can do that in your account as well. And the next program I'll talk about and actually, I'm not gonna talk about this in great detail because I think Julie is gonna talk about, community solar. And this program, through Excel Energy is the community solar program that they have. So basically, you're signing up for a third party, solar garden. And then you're receiving your power from them. They're selling their rec to Excel and Excel is giving you credits. So I'll let Julie dive into that a little bit more. But that's just one of the programs through Excel. And now I'll talk about the on-site options. All of these are solar options. So net metering is just basically installing your own solar and using that solar. You have the full rec ownership. And then there's a size cap to that on-site solar at 120% of your annual usage. So they'll look at that 12 months of usage, and you can put 120% of that if you have the capacity to do that in your space. There is a caveat here where if you intend to add a new load, say your EV chargers or some type of equipment that's going to add load, there is some potential to add more in that case. So that net metering with the solar rewards program through Excel is just where you would sell basically the additional energy that you're generating and your RECs back to Excel Energy. So you're getting money for that additional generation, and then yeah, that's basically it. So the 2022 solar rewards funding is fully allocated at this point. There is a wait list that's pretty long. So if people come off of that program, they'll move people from the wait list on there. But at this point in the year, there'll be new funding allocated in 2023. And so that would be the time to apply, should you install at that point. This is just a comparison of all of those programs. This is something that's on the Excel Energy website, but just an easy way to look at all of these programs next to each other and what they entail. And finally, and the solar folks that are here, feel free to criticize this, but this is a question I get a lot. Is just like, is my house suitable for solar? And especially because Wayzata has such a great tree canopy, it isn't always the best place to install solar depending on where you are. But so there's a couple of solar suitability apps that I like to use. Obviously, they're not going to be as accurate as going to an installer themselves. But the first one is the U of M Solar Suitability Map. I think this data is a little older than the next platform I'll show you, but it does have some good information about the sun that you're getting on your property, and can even calculate, you know, based on the size of your roof, what your square footage and kilowatt hour capacity could be. And again, it's not going to be as accurate as having someone come look at it, but just a good resource if you're in that space or just starting out the process. And of course, Google has something similar. I think the map is a little bit more detailed, and I think this data is a little newer because when I look at it for my home, I can see trees that have fallen that are still in the U of M map, but are gone in this map. And so this tells you the same thing, basically, how many hours of sunlight, square footage available for install, your kilowatt hour potential, and then can even show you things like your payback period. So I have very little roof space, which is why my payback period is 16 years. I think it's a lot shorter for most people. But just a good initial look at what your property could house. And finally, just a look at all of these programs, community-wide. This is what your participation looks like from 2019 to 2022 in all of these programs. And so I show you this, just knowing, I think there's not quite 2,000 households in Wayzata and maybe like 500-ish businesses. And so I just want to show you this because there's a lot of potential for more participation in these programs. And so spread the word, encourage others to get to know these programs and participate in them. And I'm not taking questions, that's right.
No,
Okay, I'll move on to Julie.
All right. Julie, let's see how this goes.
All right. So shall I share my screen?
Yeah, try that. See if it works.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for inviting me. I sure appreciate that. And I kind of told Lauren that I am here to tell you all about Sunshare. we're not the only community solar company in Minnesota, but Sunshares is the one I know about. So everybody implements the program slightly differently, although the overall concept is the same. Do you see my screen?
Yep, that's good.
Awesome. Okay. Quick question. We're looking at running a little late. It's 10 to 5. Are we at a hard stop at 5? Do I need to speed talk or?
No, you don't have to speak,
Okay, still-
but try to get through things quick. I think that's
15 minutes, okay?
That's perfect.
Okay. Okay, cool. So Sunshare is based in Denver, and we work right now just in Colorado and Minnesota. We do have plans for expansion into a few other states in the near future, but for now, we are Denver-based, pretty small company still, focused primarily on residential customers. Some of our gardens do have commercial industrial customers on them, but the majority of the gardens are dedicated to providing an opportunity for individuals who couldn't otherwise participate in renewable energy. As the other presenters mentioned, community solar is a good opportunity for anyone who doesn't have a good roof for solar, can't afford solar, or doesn't own a roof. Renters can even do this. Some of the things that differentiate Sunshare, we are community focused. One of the things that we are proud of is a give and get program, a gift card program. So all of our subscribers have the opportunity to bring new subscribers to us. And if that person chooses to join, then each of them get a $100 gift card, good to a long list of local vendors that we've partnered with. And this gives us the opportunity to funnel our marketing money back into our local economy. It's a win-win all the way around. And we are also always looking for land that isn't otherwise useful for something else. Sometimes this can be brownfields. Sometimes it might be the corners of a farmer's plot that's, irrigated in a circle. You got those little unused corners. We can sometimes put gardens in that. We're always looking for using land that otherwise wouldn't be used for anything else. And when possible, we plant pollinator flowers around those gardens. More possible in Minnesota than Colorado. A lot more water where y'all are. This slide speaks to the impact that you could see by offsetting your usage in any form with the renewables, should you stay enrolled in the program for the whole term, which you don't have to, but these numbers reflect a 25-year enrollment period. And again, some of the benefits of this, in Minnesota, you actually have an opportunity to save a little bit of money if you join the program. There's no upfront cost to join, there's no cost to be enrolled in it, and you're gonna see a little bit of savings on your electricity. There's nothing at your house. There's no equipment based at your house whatsoever. We're offsetting what you use from the grid, and I'll dive into that a little bit more in a minute. This slide speaks to what we've done already. So we were founded in 2011. We've got 116 megawatts developed, 12 megawatts of those owned, and our business model moving forward in time is to own and operate our gardens for the life of the projects. So that we would be your supplier for that garden for the whole life that you choose to stay enrolled. This is a timeline. Most people don't know that the whole concept of community solar started here in Colorado in 2010. And then we were founded in 2011. That makes us the oldest company in the US doing this. Shortly after that, other states began to take up their own version of community solar, Minnesota being one of those. And we moved up into Minnesota in the mid-teens, and our first garden was turned on, I think, in 2016 up in Minnesota. We are not building new gardens there right now. We are focusing on Colorado at the moment, although my understanding is that we do have some plans for some gardens in Minnesota in late 2023. This is the overall concept again. So what we're going to do is take a look at how much electricity your home uses in a year. And that tells us how many solar panels on our garden we need to assign to your needs. So we're going to push the same amount of energy onto the grid in your name that you're pulling from Xcel's grid. So as far as Mother Earth is concerned, from her perspective, this is just as good as putting solar on your own roof. It's reducing the amount of fossil fuel electricity that needs to be produced overall. And then this is an example of what your bills would look like once you're live on a garden. So to be clear, when you're signing up with me now, you're getting on a wait list. And your time to wait is going to be anywhere between 3 and 9 months. And I know that's a big window. Mostly has to do with people moving out of eligible territory and opening up spots on existing gardens. Then the person at the top of the wait list is going to take their place. So you get signed up, you get all enrolled in Xcel's program, and then customer care will reach out to you when there's available space in a garden. And in Minnesota, you actually still have a law in place that says that you have to live in the same county or adjacent to the county where the garden is. So for y'all in Hennepin County, we have gardens in Scott and Wright counties, which are adjacent to Hennepin. So those two gardens, you'd be eligible for those two. Once customer care calls you and says, hey, remember you signed up for this, would you still like to do it? Say yes, they get you on a garden, now you're live, and you're gonna start to see a second bill. In addition to your Xcel bill, you're gonna see a Sunshare bill in your email box each month. Most people choose to put that on auto pay from a checking account so that it doesn't, cause you any extra effort. Not required, but it's a nice option. So the way you read this, on the right-hand side is your electricity page of your Xcel bill. On the left-hand side is your Sunshare bill. Over here on the Xcel side, right above the red box, you see total $52.91. That's what this person would have paid to Xcel for their electricity were they not enrolled in Sunshare, but they are. And so the way the program works is that Xcel has to give the customer a credit off of their bill each month for the electricity that Sunshare puts onto the grid in their name. So if you see this here, this person had 373 kilowatt hours put onto the grid from our garden that month in their name, and it's multiplied by Xcel's current bill credit rate. Now our gardens are under a program that this bill credit rate gets changed by Xcel every year. It's tied to the average residential cost of electricity. So that's dollars per kilowatt hour there, almost 16 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's how this credit is calculated. And if you note on this example, $59 credit, but they only owed $52 for their electricity. So if you look at the top, amount due minus $670 credit. So what that means is this person is not paying anything to Xcel for their electricity that month, and Xcel is keeping track of the excess right here. So they've got that in their bank, and it gets to be applied to future months. And that will probably grow over the summer as their solar panels are pumping out most of their energy in the summer months. This credit might continue to grow during the summer, and then it'll start shrinking in the fall and the winter. But if there's still a credit there in the spring, Xcel cuts them a check and starts over. Now, I understand, I heard recently from our customer care team that in some cases Xcel is applying this credit to the gas bill. Not certain about whether that's happening everywhere or not. But it doesn't matter. You're not going to lose the credit is the important takeaway here. If you don't use your credit that month, it either gets used in subsequent months or paid out in that check at the end of the year, the solar year, or it is applied to the gas bill. So consider this money that Xcel is giving you in one way or another, and you get to then compare that credit to what you owe to Sunshare that month. So over here on the Sunshare side, kilowatt hours we produced on your behalf times Sunshare's current charge rate is what you owe to Sunshare. So this person in this example, $55 owed to Sunshare, but Xcel gave them back $59, so they're saving about $4 that month. And then on the bottom of the Sunshare bill, we keep track of your cumulative savings for you over time. The next slide speaks to those two rates, Xcel's bill credit rate and Sunshare's charge rate. So again, as I stated before, Xcel's bill credit rate, under the structure that our gardens were approved under, it's since changed, but in our structure for our current Minnesota gardens, this number is changed every April, I believe, by Xcel, and it is tied to the cost of electricity, the residential electric rate. Sunshare's charge rate changes too. Every garden that was first built was set at a rate of $0.1401 per kilowatt hour, about 14 cents a kilowatt hour. And there is a fixed escalator, an annual escalator of 2.75%. So every year that garden ages, its rate goes up by 2.75%. For y'all in Hennepin County, again, you're eligible for the gardens in Wright and Scott counties, St. Son and Scott Son. Those are 2 years old and 3 years old, respectively. So Scott Son is currently at $0.14791 per kilowatt hour, and the St. Son is a year older, or yep, so then it's 2.75% more than that. So then what you can do then to figure out what your savings will be is subtract this number from Xcel's bill credit rate to get your savings per kilowatt hour. Excuse me. And that's where I came up with the last column. The average household in your area uses about 8,700 kilowatt hours a year of electricity. So if you take that 8,700 times this savings number, this is the savings you could expect to see on each of those gardens. It's not a huge amount, but it's kind of cool that this thing is free, and in fact, it's going to save you a little bit of money each year. This slide kind of goes a little more in depth on how solar produces monthly, and it kind of shows you Sunshare's charge rates versus Xcel's bill credits over a typical year for an example garden. There's a lot of numbers in here, and since we're running short of time, I'm not going to go too much into this, except to point out one thing. Solar makes more of its energy in the summer and less in the winter, right? So we're not matching your monthly usage. We're matching your yearly usage. So this example is for someone that uses 8,700 kilowatt hours in 1 year. And you can see how their solar panels is going to create the energy each month. So you're going to see that their highest charge and credit will happen in the summer months, and their lowest numbers happen in the winter months. So it's okay when you look at your bill and you see that what we produced for you that month doesn't match what you used that month. That's okay. We're matching what you use in a year because we can't control how solar panels make their energy, but we can model how they make their energy quite closely. And if you want to call me later, we could go in more into depth on that. I know that's a lot to wrap your mind around. This next slide just speaks to electricity rates, and that bill credit rate is going to be reflected in that. And as you can kind of see, the way patterns work for electricity rate increases is PUC grants rate increases for a while, and then they deny them for a while, and then they grant them for a while, and deny them for a while. So that bill credit rate isn't going to go up in a straight line fashion. It's going to have jumps and starts. You're seeing increases, as one of the prior presenters mentioned. You're seeing big increases now because you had a real flat period for quite some time on your residential rates. So that's good news for community solar. You can expect to see the bill credit rate going up probably over time in the next few years. the last slide speaks to how you might leave the program. So there had to be a time basket set around this program, and in Minnesota, that's 25 years. So our agreement with Excel is for 25 years. That's the life of the garden. And so we've created a contract with our subscribers that's technically a 25-year agreement as well. But nobody's going to join something like that if they're stuck with a 25-year contract. So it's a 25-year agreement that you can leave at any time, should you choose to do so. And these are the ways you might leave. The first way you might leave the program is if you move out of eligible territory. So if you move within eligible territory, you get to take it with you. It's portable solar. As long as you're still in or adjacent to the county where your garden is, you're still good to go. You get to take it with you, and we can resize that for you later. However, if you remain eligible, but for some other reason you want to leave the program, give us a call, and you have two options. The first would be if you have someone you want to transfer your subscription to, a friend, neighbor, family member. A lot of people who sell their homes will offer this to the home buyer as a kind of an extra incentive, because they don't have to wait to, you don't have to go to the bottom of the wait list. They're at the top of the wait list. But if you don't have a transferee, we'll get one for you from our wait list. So we'll take the person at the top of the list and replace you. Now, full disclosure here, our lenders required us to put this in our contract. It's never been implemented in the life of Sunshare. It says that if there ever, for some weird reason, happen to be no wait list, you could be charged an exit fee of $250. It's never happened. We don't expect it to. That's just not the model of how this works. But full transparency, that is there. So yeah, if you want to get off the program, you got to give us a little time to process that with Excel. However, during that wait period, you're still getting your Excel bill credits and your Sunshare charges. So you're still seeing that savings while you're waiting. That's our program in a nutshell. It's a really flexible opportunity. It takes you only about 15 minutes to sign up. All we need is your Excel account information, the account number, your name as they have it on your bill, and your service address, and I can walk you through the process. It's very quick and simple, and I would be the person you'd talk to. So I don't know, maybe I'll put my phone number on the chat or something afterwards. But you're free to call me, and we can go over all of this at a more leisurely pace at any time if someone's interested in pursuing this.
Thank you,
That's
Julie.
all I got. You're welcome.
That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to have you take control again because I can't find the stop share button. There you go. Thanks.
No, I guess I can go now. People don't know me. I'm Nick, Parks Planner here at the city. So now it's kind of just Q&A time for kind of our presenters. Thanks again for everybody helping us out. Good info. Really appreciate it. So are there any questions right now for our presenters that we want to talk about? Yeah, Ed.
This one might be for Mark. So if you had an imaginary customer that had roof space and ground space, there's no competing uses. Which one would be less expensive or more harm to locate the roof or the ground?
I mean, great question. I would look at, analyze and say, is one more shaded than the other? You know, we'd have to look at municipal, use in terms of, in terms of Wayzata or wherever you may live. Is there a, ground use that we can't put solar on the ground? HOAs sometimes have certain rules for solar panels on the roof. It's gonna be nearly the same cost, roughly. It just depends on, I think, what is your best, what's your goal? Is it fastest payback? Is it to get rid of all your, offset all of your energy usage? Then that's something we do in our analysis. So I know it's a little bit of a loaded question, but it's gonna be very similar in cost. The questions really come down to what's your goal? So, and again, something, I'd be happy to to look into and say, here are the two options. Build out the same. Yep,
Prevent other people asking questions, but one obvious difference is the roof, the size of it is fixed.
yes,
The lawn might have more.
right,
space.
right. And that's, some of our customers will say, you know, they'll have one building and they'll say, we can take out about 50%, you know, offset. But if we put it on the ground, we can reach 100 offset. Now, obviously, if we go 100% on the ground, it's gonna cost more than the roof, than 50% of the roof. However, the payback's gonna be better because you're gonna be able to offset your whole bill, and, you know, you'll get a larger tax credit out of that and, you know, greater energy offset. So typically, if it's between the two, most of our customers will go on the ground. But, you know, like for the city here, that's not an option. There's just not green space within the city to do that, you know, to have on-site solar on the ground. So what made most sense for them was obviously using roof space.
You pretty much have to be on the ground if you want to back it.
Yes, if you do the tracking systems, yes, 100%. So, you know, we looked at some carport opportunities. At this point, what really drives costs with something like that is all the steel needed to build those carports. So it doesn't make as much, you know, economic sense compared to, you know, the rooftop system.
Have you guys started looking into or getting experience with solar shingle?
We have not. We are an installer, so we aren't quite there yet. I know obviously Tesla has a product out there, and I think since it's been pulled back from market.
Some,
Yeah,
like
So-
GAF also has. So
so not at this point, since we aren't a roofing contractor. We specialize in obviously some of the options that I've gone over, but I think in the future, we're looking at anything that the consumers are gonna see a good payback and be able to use the environmental benefits.
well, in new construction,
It makes a lot of sense, yeah. And we've had conversations with builders about this, that, you know, if you're putting up a development, this can make a ton of sense. I think it's education on what are the costs, what are the benefits to the builder, and then obviously the end consumer. How do you price that in? If we can continue to educate, I think we'll definitely see more of that. The smart houses of the future are going to have that, yes.
you guys do residential?
Yeah, a little bit, yep.
Hey,
Any
this
other-
is Julie. If I could add a quick pertinent bit to what you just said. Just so everyone knows, community solar can play with rooftop solar. If you have a good south-facing roof to put your rooftop solar on, but it doesn't cover 100% of your needs, you might consider supplementing with a community solar subscription instead of, you know, putting it on an east roof or a shaded area or whatnot, just to increase your return on investment on that solar on your roof.
Good.
One thing I would add, a lot of the programs that Excel Department of Energy covers, and some of these energy efficiency recommendations they provide. There are a lot of new tax credits for these sorts of energy efficiency improvements for homes, whether that is in water heating, solar, certainly, efficiency, lighting, all those sorts of different things, appliances and so forth. So if you're looking at programs that would result in that sort of audit, there are a lot of new programs now that help offset the cost of those sorts of investments in the home.
I'll jump on that too. Heat pumps are gonna be a very big part of this, this new federal bill I kind of mentioned earlier. There are significant tax credits when installing a heat pump. So if you are to build a home or you're thinking about, you have an older, furnace AC combo and you're about to update, I would highly recommend reaching out to a contractor that, maybe does both heat pumps and a furnace AC, and getting that number, and then looking at the that once it's 2023, the federal tax credit for heat pumps.
Yeah, and there's been some tremendous advancements in heat
Yes.
pumps. It used to be that, they really weren't effective below 20 degrees, and now they're already effective on negative.
Yes, the efficiency.
To that point, if you are contacting a contractor about heat pumps, the Air Source Heat Pump Collaborative has a list of contractors on the website that know and have installed heat pumps. I just had a contractor come out just through Home Depot that refused to talk about them. So as long as you're talking to the right people, you'll get the right information.
Can you say that resource again?
Air Source Heat Pump Collaborative. Yeah, I think there's only
It
one.
was right after.
Yeah.
Any other questions, thoughts?
I have a question for Julie. I was just wondering about the wait list turnovers. I think a lot of people, especially in this city, have tried to sign up for community solar and encountered those really long wait lists. What do you see for turnover in those? And then aside from that question, what is the purpose behind the county, neighboring county law that we have here in Minnesota?
Okay, to answer your first question, I'll counter with a question. How fast do you think people that are on community solar gardens now are going to move?
I wouldn't think at all.
I don't know either. That's really probably the big way that we get openings on the gardens is when people move out of territory. And that's why it's frustratingly imprecise when we have to tell you 3 to 9 months. Because, I don't think a lot of people leave the program, they're saving money on it, unless they become ineligible. And that's usually because they move. I can't give you a better answer than that. Regarding your other question, I don't know. Colorado had that in place too. So the very first legislation that was established also had that law, and it made it really hard here because Denver's land is super expensive. That's where almost all of our customers are, and the counties are tiny. Doesn't impact y'all as much because your counties are so giant. But I guess that the way that you pass new legislation in Minnesota is rough in that it's these big packages and you have to pass all or nothing. Can't remember what that's called. But it's always brought up. I mean, the solar industry is always trying to get that law removed. We managed to get it removed in Colorado in 2019, the Modernization Act. So far unsuccessful in removing that in Minnesota. So talk to your legislators. It's a silly law. It should be anywhere in XL territory, like it is here in Colorado.
Yeah, I will echo Julie's point. So I serve on the board of the Trade Association here for solar. And if this is an important issue for you, please contact your legislators, make sure they know at the state level, this is the law that you would like to see changed. It's something we try every year and roadblocks every year. But both from a density standpoint, but also from the standpoint of, we are frankly running out of physical space to locate gardens around the metro area that can be, productively served to this community. So it would be much easier if we could locate anywhere in the territory, including out in eastern, western Minnesota, where there's a lot of available space and transmission capacity. So.
I'm not exactly sure how to ask this, but I noticed with Julie that the price went up as you were subscribing price went up. Is that because of maintenance and the cost of it going up as the equipment ages? And then I was going to ask Nick, how would you budget for like the city of Wayzata for maintaining and for pumps, things like that? Is there a lot of cost? I know it's a big question, but I was just kind of wondering what the budgeting numbers might be for upkeeping the equipment.
Yeah. Julie, did you get that first part?
No, I'm sorry.
I was asking Julie, why did the cost go up, by the year?
Oh, yeah, I'm not privy to that. I'm just a salesperson. I'm gonna say inflation. I mean, there are ongoing costs to all of these things. Inverters do need to be replaced, and they are single axis trackers, so that's mechanicals. So, and then land leases. Sorry, I don't have a better answer than that.
Well, the panels themselves lose efficiency every year.
And
A
is
little
there-
bit, that's true. That's true.
Is there
That's a good one, thank you.
Typically, right now, in the majority of our installs, they are not, you know, we don't have batteries, that customers, it's really driven by economics. That the battery cost at this point isn't an additional savings. So installing the batteries is again, at this point, not going to see financial benefits for most customers. Maybe a larger, you know, we have an install in Carver, Minnesota, that they decided to install batteries, because both from a, you know, environmental standpoint, but from a cost standpoint, it made sense because it hit their demand side of their bill. I guess from your, I think you had another question regarding.
Like, is there a lot of maintenance?
Oh, yeah. So in all of our financial models, we'll bake in, you know, kind of a yearly maintenance, and that includes, you know, once per year, we'll have someone from our team actually go to the site and, you know, actually get up on the roof or you know, near the ground mount or wherever and check to make sure we have monitoring. So we can monitor real time that day, that week, that year, how much energy the system's producing compared to how much we kind of expected it to produce. And the benefit of I think of being around since 2009 is we can compare it to the, you know, put a 20-mile radius around a single system. If it's down 5%, is it a weather type thing? Or is there something going on site? We'll also get alerts from inverters if anything's wrong from the site. So that's kind of baked into our financial analysis. So when we give a customer, you know, say, this is how much a system is, we'll have our 10-year warranty that includes maintenance with that. And then beyond that, they can say, you know, we have systems that are getting up to 10, 11, 12 years. They go to a year-to-year kind of maintenance plan that we can provide from a service perspective. So, yeah.
The batteries also have to do with grid resiliency. So if that's the utility level type stuff. And it's in order to keep from having to build peaker plants and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Much more common. California has, they're kind of light years ahead there. They encourage the installation of batteries with their systems, just because they have more, you know, rolling blackouts and peak issues. Whereas here in Minnesota, we're pretty lucky in terms of our grid reliability at this point. You know, and I'm sure that again, as battery costs come down, we'll see people adopt those, you know, more and more.
So in your more like agricultural settings, you also get involved with pollinator situations and that kind of stuff.
We'll put it in you know, places where yes, you know, bees and wildlife can more or less, but we're always careful. You know, a lot of people say, well, can we put it in our livestock or near our livestock? Yes, but you don't want you know, a cow or, you know, animal chewing away at anything, you know. Everything is covered by, you know, the wires are not exposed, they're covered by mesh, but you'd be surprised what a goat can do, you know, over time. So we always encourage, you know, let's keep it away from any livestock. And you know, some of the larger, I think Julie can elaborate on this, they'll require fencing. I mean, you'll see if you go to a garden, you know, drive out, they'll require fencing, so nothing can interrupt.
The pollinator part is really,
That's
really
getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, we actually, the interesting project we had was a cattle port. We built a cattle port, you know, essentially a carport, but for cattle.
Right.
And so it served as both, you you know, offsetting the bill, but also shade for the livestock, so.
We actually do have, I guess, one of our gardens up in Weld County, Colorado. We do utilize a group of goats to keep the weeds down. I assume that one is built tall enough that they can't reach it to chew it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Comments, thoughts? Well, I want to thank our speakers again. Thanks for coming out and answering our questions and everything. And I know I'll get Julie's info to everybody too. There's a sign up sheet too with email if you guys want presentation or anything like that. I can certainly send it everyone's way too. Yeah, and there's more food. There's a lot of food, so take some on your way out too. Yeah, right. Yeah. And thanks everybody for coming out. Appreciate it. And thanks, Julie.
Thanks for having. Yeah.
Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome. Bye now.
Bye.